Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down one of India's most significant and hotly debated laws. We're talking, of course, about the Citizenship Amendment Act, or CAA. Is it a shield for the vulnerable, or is it a law that's tearing a nation apart? Our goal today is to explain the what, the why, and the intense controversy behind it all. Okay, so before we can really get into the nitty-gritty of the law itself, we've got to get on the same page with two words. They are absolutely central to this entire discussion. First up, persecution. Now, this is really the whole justification for the law, according to the government. We're talking about mistreatment, violence, or discrimination against a group of people because of their beliefs or their background. Keep that word in mind. And the second word is immigrant. Pretty straightforward, right? But it's crucial because this whole debate really boils down to one fundamental question: who gets to become a citizen of India? Now that we have those terms down, let's get some historical context. You know, to really understand why the CAA is such a big deal, we can't just look at it in a vacuum. We've got to zoom out and see it as the latest chapter in India's incredibly long history as a sanctuary for people fleeing their homes. And just look at this timeline. It's incredible, right? We're talking about centuries of movement. You've got Parsis fleeing persecution way back when, the massive, chaotic migration during partition, and then in more recent memory, Tibetans, refugees from the Bangladesh Liberation War, Afghans, Sri Lankan Tamils. The list goes on. This constant flow of people is the backdrop for everything we're talking about today. Okay, so with this long history of people coming into the country, how has India actually defined citizenship, legally speaking? What were the rules of the game before the CAA showed up? Well, it really comes down to two main legal pillars. First, you have the Constitution of India. Think of it like a snapshot in time. It basically said, okay, if you were here in 1950 when the Republic was founded, you're a citizen. Simple enough. But what about everyone born after that, or who came to India later? Well, for that, you have the Citizenship Act of 1955. And that is the specific law the CAA comes in and changes. All right, so now we're at the heart of it. What does this new law, the Citizenship Amendment Act, actually do? What does it change about that 1955 Act? Well, it really boils down to two huge changes. The first one, and this is probably the biggest, is that it redefines what an illegal immigrant even is. Before, the rule was super clear-cut. If you came into India without the right papers, or you stayed longer than your visa allowed, you were an illegal immigrant, period. But now, the CAA carves out a massive exception to that rule. And this slide tells you exactly who qualifies for that new exception. It's incredibly specific. You have to be from one of three countries: Pakistan, Bangladesh, or Afghanistan. You have to belong to one of these 6 religious communities. And you had to have entered India before the end of 2014. If you check all those boxes under the CAA, you are no longer considered an illegal immigrant. And the second big change? It's all about speeding things up. For those specific groups we just talked about, the wait time to even apply for citizenship gets a massive cut. It goes from a long 11 years all the way down to just 5. So that begs the question, right? Why these specific changes? What was the government's official thinking here? Why create this law in the first place? Well, the official line, which you can see right here in the quote from Home Minister Amit Shah, is that this is fundamentally a humanitarian act. The argument is that these 6 communities are religious minorities in their home countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh, which are officially Islamic states. And because they face religious persecution there, the government says India has a kind of moral duty to give them shelter and a faster, easier path to becoming citizens. But, as we all know, this law was incredibly controversial. It led to massive, sustained protests across the country. And the opposition isn't just one single thing. It really comes from two very different, very important arguments. Okay, so argument number 1, which was heard across the whole country, is that the law is fundamentally discriminatory. The critics say that by explicitly listing 6 religions and leaving out Muslims, it goes against Article 14 of India's constitution. That's the bedrock principle of equality for all. Now, the second line of opposition is totally different. It's a very regional issue, really focused on India's northeastern states, especially Assam, and it has its own long, complicated backstory. Right, so let's zoom in on that opposition in the Northeast for a moment. It's fascinating because it's not just about the CAA in isolation. It's about how the CAA crashes head-on into a completely separate, historic regional agreement. This timeline really tells the whole story. For years, there was this huge popular movement in Assam against all illegal immigration from Bangladesh. Didn't matter what religion, it was about protecting local culture and resources. That movement ended in 1985 with something called the Assam Accord. And the accord set a hard and fast rule. If you came into Assam after March 24th, 1971, you were an illegal immigrant, full stop. But now the CAA comes along and says, well, actually, for these 6 non-Muslim groups, the new cutoff date is 2014. You can see how, for the people of Assam, this just completely steamrolls the agreement they fought so hard for. And that's the deadlock right there. You have the CAA, which is trying to solve one problem, the persecution of minorities in neighboring countries. But in doing that, it completely undermines a decades-old solution to a very different problem, migration in Assam. It ends up creating a brand new conflict. And this brings us back to the fundamental, unresolved question at the very core of the entire CAA debate. For a nation that sets out to protect some persecuted minorities, is it right to exclude others? That's the challenge this law puts front and center for everyone to confront.